Alrighty. So good afternoon. Thank you all for joining the Community Outreach Committee. Today, we want to talk about um, firming up details for our August 25th meeting. And I'll turn it over to Lauren to see if we have any communication pieces that we can share throughout our networks.
Sure. So we have confirmed from the council president's office that we can do the current room since the War Memorial Building is being used that entire weekend. And then for the other comms pieces like the one pagers and things like that, we are still working with our communications department. Adam has been helping with that as well to get something like affirm something together. Haley Tilt, who was our intern over the summer, she did a great job of pulling together all the information. So now we just are working to get everything in one graphic that is very concise, and then we'll be maybe hopefully for the next meeting, and maybe even by Friday, we'll have something to circulate to the groups that everybody can look over things. But we will also work on getting together a announcement that can go on social media that we can start pushing on the mayor's social media and also with our Office of Neighborhood so that we can start getting the word out there that this is the first of however many meetings.
Great, thank you. And then the other piece, Lydia, we talked about before you joined, we want to make sure that we can confirm the interpreter. So the city is going to confirm on their end with their vendor. If for some reason something happens, do you have anyone at CASA who can do it?
I think we're going to have community organizers there, but it's more on a supportive role because we're hoping to turn folks out and bring folks to the event.
Yes.
We could send over it's in person, so I was going to say we could send over some potential vendors in case the city needs that support. But I can work on sending a potential list for folks. I don't want to commit us to interpreting because we're going to be, bringing folks to the event.
Right. Okay, that's no problem. Because I definitely want to make sure that that gets taken care of. So we'll confirm as soon as possible on that. I know the documents are going to be translated as well. So I just want to make sure that that is taken care of. And I think that's it. The really pressing piece is agenda. What is it that we want to cover? So, of course, we know that we will do a welcome. The chairs will probably do a welcome. If any elected or dignitaries in the room, we will allow them to speak. But what's the material that we want to cover? So I'm assuming that we'll go over whatever pieces that we're going to hand out. And we can share the PowerPoint if that capability is there. And then some question and answer.
Yeah, and so kind of to elaborate on the pieces, we shared the PowerPoint at Friday's meeting, and then following that, I shared the one pagers. We haven't gotten more feedback aside from what was given on the PowerPoint itself at the initial meeting. I'll do a bump to the work group because it went out kind of late Friday. But just to let everyone know if they have any other written comments to let us know. But the one pagers, there's probably about like 10 or so for various cities. So we sent them all out so that we could get feedback on them, and then we could decide once I've gotten all the feedback in, whether we want to have hard copies of all of those or send them out. We could pick and choose what we share. And similarly with the PowerPoint, I think my hope is once we as we continue to work with our comms team, if we could the more we can do to put this out on social or even on like the local control web page and direct people there, the more it could be engaging with everyone. So
Mhm.
this will be our first meeting, but hopefully if we run into kinks, we could work it out
Right.
so that
Mhm.
for future meetings but the materials should all be the same. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, I
kind of where
definitely.
that stands. And we probably will have to do a lot of emailing with the group in order to get feedback and confirm documents. Just just with the nature of the time we have and it being summer and meetings.
Yeah, I definitely want to make sure that the one pager showing like what we're doing
Ah, okay.
is tight, and that piece.
Yeah, hey, it's Adam. Um, to uplift the question, I think the goal at this time is to encourage people to ask questions about the process, about what we've learned so far, and that will be helpful with all of the one pagers and the information that we will continue to develop and fine tune. But at this stage, the goal is to encourage people to vote yes in November.
Mhm.
And I think we should also, with the agenda of these early meetings, sort of spell out like, hey, we're still in the research phase, and we are, to a certain extent, and we'll figure out what this looks like, committed to, communicating the finding of that research in real time or in summarized forms, etc. But I do think we will need to spend a little time to echo your point, Chair Parker, about what is the takeaway we want from folks now, I guess pre-November, and then as time goes on and we have more information and perhaps we've established a little bit more of what the committee's thoughts are in regards to the nature of local control and what, if anything, we're pursuing differently. At a future date, we can start talking about what that will look like as well. So it's going to be tricky these early months because it's kind of like a part one, vote yes, and part two, stay tuned for more information. At least that's kind of my simplified way of thinking about it. But I agree, we're going to have to make that very clear, both as a group internally, but certainly externally when we start presenting publicly.
Good.
Hey,
Is
everybody, this is.
Oh, go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah, thanks so much. No, I want to agree with Adam. I think, knowing that this is a kickoff meeting and we are in early stages, I would, suggest that we do something similar to what Adam is saying and really bring it back to basics as it relates to an overview of um, what are the limitations of Baltimore City currently without local control. I think in order to uplift to community members, the importance of the transition before we start to give them materials on different types of local control. I think, even if we do the first meeting or even the first two meetings as kickoff meetings to raise awareness, particularly around the ballot question, this is going to allow folks to get familiar with it. I would also suggest that we have a clear mechanism of feedback for community members to be able to give feedback on the type of local controls, whether it's a public period that we're going to have that we launch during these orientations, but folks know that the public period will be, maybe there's multiple public periods. So folks know that there's going to be multiple opportunities for them to give feedbacks on the different types of local control. I guess my question to the group is, if we finalize a calendar of engagement that we can present to community members for all the different opportunities that they will have to be part of the various workshops, orientations, and maybe we can even let folks know we'll be getting into orientations in mid-September, late September about the different types of local controls. And maybe the first couple of orientations are spreading awareness about what are the current limitations without local control. I think there's a lot of popular education that we want to make sure we build a foundation before we start getting into the different types of local control with community members, and really driving the awareness of how the question in of itself is going to be displayed in the ballot. So I guess I just have two follow-up questions. One, do we have the final ballot question and how it's going to look? Because it could be uplift during the kickoff orientation so folks actually know what it looks like and what the question is actually saying? And two, do we have a calendar already of orientation / workshops that we're going to present to the public? Are we planning to do it bi-weekly, every week? I think that would allow us to guide us and shape the kickoff agendas.
Thank you so much, Lydia, and I appreciate your and Adam's feedback. Often being in the weeds in this, I forget that, especially when we're talking to the public, we really do have to go back to the basics, and that they're not as knowledgeable as we are knowledgeable. So I do think that's an important component of it, as we're incorporating the feedback into the materials we had shared. So I actually really agree with you on that part about the types of local control documents being something we share at future meetings when we're talking really more about the specifics of local control, and updating some of the documents we have going now so that they really more focus on the ballot aspect of, like, yes, on the ballot, which might have been a little bit lost in the weeds there. And then for your question on the final ballot question, I will follow up with the law department because I know it was submitted to the Board of Elections already. So I would at least know what it looks like from our end. And I could see, I don't know with their process how soon we would be able to get a specific version of what it would absolutely look like on the State Board of Elections side. Because I think what you're getting at is, and I've seen it before when you get close to ballot time, how people can show like a sample of what that ballot looks like. So I will follow up with the law department to see if we could get how the ballot, at the very least, how the ballot was worded, even if it's not at the point where from the state we have a copy of what it would actually look like on the ballot itself. And then I guess we'll go to Co-Chair Shia on the calendar events, because I know
Yeah,
we've
the
talked about this.
calendar we need to tighten up. I agree, because ideally we want it done by the last week in October. So I don't know if how we can take a stab at it, for lack of better words. Because we're doing the first one on August 25th. The next week is going into Labor Day. I would definitely, and I will take the responsibility of putting together possible dates between Wednesday and Thursday. I know we talked about that, or maybe a doodle or something, so we can see who's available on those days and if those days work, and then we can go ahead and confirm that with Lauren, and she can help us with the location. But I agree, if we are able to nail those down, we can share it. That's good. We could share it publicly. So I'll send that around like a doodle poll. I guess that's the best way of doing it.
Yeah, and then
Oh, go ahead, Natasha. Sorry.
or Lydia, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if our goal, if we're hoping to do them weekly or bi-weekly, just to give us some time to organize community and make sure folks in hard to reach places are present in the orientations. And, you know, I know we mentioned Wednesday and Thursday, and if possible, we could just at least have one Saturday there to have the availability for community. And just want to, you know, say that we welcome a session in CASA, and we're happy to, you know, I think I uplifted in one of the meetings to the necessity to always have an interpreter present. You know, to have that headset interpretation in each one of them, but obviously we're happy to host a bilingual session that we can do in both languages as well, in case folks feel a little bit more comfortable without the headset as well. So just wanted to put that out there. And if needed, we can do 2 sessions bilingually.
Thank you. Those are great. Now, what do you think about this? I know it's not a lot of us from the community side, but if we do it bi-weekly, most likely we would have to maybe put 2 districts together. Are we okay with that?
I think that's fine if they're neighboring districts and yeah.
How do you feel about that, Lydia?
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think with the districts that we are putting together, we should just give input to folks in the area organizing to see, you know, which one makes sense, which location would make sense to represent both, or if there's a, you know, a trusted, you know, location that's in the middle of both turfs.
Got it. Okay, so I'll work on a doodle and putting it out there that we're probably going to try to shrink them, because when we did this, I said in between like 5 to 9 meetings. So 9, of course, we know is each district. So if we do it every other week, that'll give time for outreach, especially if we put it on the calendar now. And then we can just try to put them all together.
And then I will flag, I know he's not on now, but I know at a previous meeting, Ray Kelly had noted that he would be willing to host but it was like certain Wednesdays or Thursdays, I forget.
Yeah, I think his is the last Wednesday. So we could do West and Central. I know we're doing Central now, but we could also, I feel like City Hall could almost be looked at as a citywide one. So we can just put it out there, but I know at that location could be considered West and Central. So we can look at it that way. All right. So I'm going to do my best to get some stuff out by Friday before I go out of town. I'll also let Chairwoman Moore know so she can maybe assist if needed. Yep. But thank you all. We got off here before 2:30. Anything else do we need?
No, we'll aim on our end to get as much as we can updated and confirmed by Friday as well, including connecting you with our colleague on the team, the administrative side of things, who can help with the refreshments aspects of things.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you.
Ashia, sorry to keep you guys. Ashia, I guess my question would be, so it sounds like if we're going to do every other week, it sounds like we have the potential to do 5 community orientation workshops. And then I just wanted to get the group's thoughts on, you know, really kicking off the central. Maybe we do 2 central ones. We kick one off, and then another central one is a time where we get input for types of local controls, maybe mid-September-ish, late September, right? But in the one where we kick off, I guess we can have a conversation later if that's the hopes of the group, to maybe get direct input of types of local control after we have 1 or 2 kickoffs under our belt. But the objective too of the early ones, raising that awareness of the ballot question, that's going to be key in obviously us continuing this work. So, you know, please use me as a resource for any support in language and narrative of you know, during the meeting, but also any materials. And, you know, we're happy to take a peek at the Spanish translation, you know, to support in organizing folks. But I guess, you know, I think that ballot question, how the ballot question is written, is going to be key in how folks react to this whole process. There's going to be folks, you know, looking at this for the very first time. There's going to be folks who have been advocating for this for years. There's going to be folks who are on the fence. So, you know, how the ballot question is written, I think we want to ensure that that's not the first time that folks see that question is at the ballot, but, you know, we're able to do that Q&A of during these workshops. So, you know, I I know that Ashia, you're working on the agenda for the kickoff. And the more that we can, talk about what we're missing without local control, the more folks will start to raise awareness as the reason to vote yes, if it is essentially a yes vote. And yeah, I just wanted to uplift that because, being part of the referendum in 2012, you were supporting the issue, but you were so confused when you read the question in that particular referendum that we were fighting for that you weren't sure where you were voting. And, it caught a lot of folks by surprise in the ballot box. So, having that question will be really key for us, setting up the kickoff and awareness, popular education materials.
Yep. I have another idea to add on to that because, and I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole, but help me, Natasha. Basically, we're turning in a report at the end because we're doing this committee until December. So theoretically, we could make sure that everyone understands the question, knows why they're voting yes. We start floating out ideas and information about different local control. But after the election, well, up into the election, especially after and it passes, we could do more deeper dives into the types of control, and then we could consider that and put that in the report that we're turning in.
Yes, exactly. So I think we certainly can spend this front half of the time up to the election doing, as Lydia noted, making sure people are clear and understand what they're voting for on the ballot. And then we could continue to have public meetings and engagement that then more focus on the types of local control.
We can get the
and
feedback.
Exactly, get our feedback. And then, yes, we have our report in December.
Okay.
And we would most absolutely include that in our report. And those one pagers really get towards that second half of things and the ultimate report, because they gave backgrounds on each city based on the research of the city charters and other information. So we have that background, and the conversations with the cities will also help flush that out. And we started developing the one pagers mostly because it was so difficult to try to get these meetings scheduled with the speakers, but it was important to have that background there. So absolutely, we could do deeper dives and continue public engagement. So we could see that as two steps. One is the ballot, and the other is getting feedback on the more substantive, what local control looks like.
That sounds like a great idea. Shia. And it'll keep, it's almost like if we kick off, local control, the types of local control in October, like start to incorporate that into the sessions once we get a couple kickoffs under our belt. It might keep the confusion at bay, especially for folks who are new to this issue. Yet, obviously we should always have the one pager materials in the different types, and let folks know that they would be, I think it's important for us to come into consensus to message back to community that there will be a public feedback time, there will be community engagement, there is going to be a process and folks being able to give either public feedback or oral feedback at upcoming workshops and orientations, so that community knows that they'll be part of making that, giving their comments and bringing those to light. And if we can come into consensus of what that could look like before the kickoff on August 25th, we can narrate that out to community, and letting folks know after the ballot that, the board continues until December. So maybe we open up a public comment period, a second public comment period in November, to gauge additional input. I think community just knowing that it's going to be more participatory, and it will allow us to make sure that we achieve, folks' understanding of what they're voting. They're not fully voting for the types of local control, but they're voting for the actual, bringing local control to the city, And so focusing in our kickoff orientations on what we're currently missing if we do not have local control.
Yep, sounds good. So I will do my part to get some stuff rolling. And then, like I said, I'll reach out and see what we can do next week. So that's not a lost week. When is the next committee meeting? It's the 22nd. So hopefully
Yeah.
we can do some stuff by email next week so we're not losing time. And then
Right, exactly. We're happy to keep people in the loop through emails in between now and then. We know how rough it is to schedule things during the summer.
Writing. Well, thank you all. And we'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.